Yeah, so I recorded an entire video, where I talked about my Star Trek Appreciation Society and my Babylon 5 Appreciation Society, and why I think DS9, although good, isn't the best Star Trek show. But I said, you guys all heard it before, so there's no point in me, because I never talk about the same thing twice. So I went on for 45 minutes whilst pretending to sort. So I ain't gonna scrap that one. The point. I'm just gonna bring this over here. Solid stud, 1x1 round. And yesterday, I'm not thinking. Well, I did. There's one right there. When I made the video, 1x1 round with no groove in the bottom. So that's older than me. I said that yesterday too, but you won't see that video. So, good times. So instead of having a 45-minute spiel about my appreciation of Star Trek and Babylon 5 and all things science fiction, I talked for 45 minutes and nobody understood a single word he said, but we all had fun filling out the forms and playing with the pencils there on the bench. Deep cut. if anybody knows what that one's from, oh my god, I had all 18 minutes memorized. I don't think I could do it now, but I could recite the whole thing from beginning to end because it's that awesome. So actually, because I am truncating that 45 minutes down to what I just said, I got literally nothing to talk about, which is a shock for me. I'm going to pontificate a little bit. This is the fire extinguisher that shows up in a whole bunch of sets, and it's still the other. I'm going to pontificate a slight bit because I have been ruminating. There's another one. Holy moly! I guess I just left them together when I put them in here. I was talking to another friend today, actually, and I was mentioning that I sincerely believe, had my friend Sean been born in the last 20 years instead of 58 years ago like I was, he'd still be alive today because he would feel at least appreciated for who he is and who he was. And that's kind of a sobering thought when I actually think about it, that we keep on, I've heard this before, the evolution of society, it's filled with pitfalls and sadness along the way over the decades and the eons that people have been alive, and changing their opinions on various topics, moral and or otherwise. And somewhat related but tangentially is my mom told me this story when she was a girl growing up. She was born in 1943, so the war was on, but she was born in 43. And so she was in school in the 50s, late 40s and early 50s. And back then, and I remember stories about this. And again, I will not know if this happened in subsequent generations because I am not a girl growing up in school. There's another one. Solid stud, no groove. Yay. But she even told me this, and I don't know how the topic came up years ago, but she told me this, that when she was in school and she was, 12, 13, 14, and, the change that happens to kids at around that time, and she had to start wearing undergarments that she didn't have to wear when she was like single digits. And back then, when she was in school, it was a given. It was an absolute given that girls would have their bra strap snapped. And she said she would have bruises on her back from it. And when she stood up for herself, the teachers and the principal would say, "Boys will be boys." Which, when we look back at that is literally the most disgusting thing I can think of. I can think of more disgusting things, but in that context, I can't think of anything more disgusting, anything more invasive and harmful. Like, she had bruises on her back from the boys walking by and grabbing her bra strap and snapping it. And yet, in the context of her generation, that was a given that was going to happen. That was there was no way around it back in the 40s and 50s. I guess it would be the 50s because my mom would have been only 7 years old when 1950 showed up, so halfway through the 50s. And that stuck with me. It's not every day I think about it, ruminate over, but I think about how disgusting an act that is, how you are deliberately causing pain, physical pain and bruising in another individual for what? Because it's what boys do. Some boys. It's what boys do. I mean, we can get into I'd rather be in the woods with a bear than a man. That's a whole other topic, and I'm not going to dwell on that one right now. But it's legitimate. But people who get so irate that they keep on feeling that the patriarchy or the male egos are being smothered because of the changes in society to make equality feminist is not for promoting women as the top. Feminism from the 70s, I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar, is to push for equality between the sexes. So I have my body space and nobody invades that without my permission or my want or my desire. Why wasn't the same thing afforded and accorded to women out there? It wasn't to my mom when she was a teenager. And to me, I was offended on her behalf because I couldn't, and again, because again, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I was oblivious. Maybe it still happened to my friends who were girls in school. Maybe some boys would still do that. I never saw it happen, but then again, I'm oblivious. But it wouldn't even dawn on me. It didn't even, I mean, maybe it's monkey see, monkey do, I don't know. But since I never saw it, I never thought about it, I didn't even dawn on me that that's something that would happen or should happen or could happen. I never had an opinion on it back when I was a teenager because it didn't happen in my circles. It probably did happen if I asked some of my friends now from when they were in school at my age and say they would probably regale me of the times that they felt violated and or their space invaded and whatever. But I was a geek and I'm hanging out with my Star Trek books and my science fiction books, so I didn't pay too much attention, shall we say, to, and again, this is a old timey way of saying it. I didn't pay too much attention to the fairer sex and their plight in the world back when I was 14. I was too busy watching Star Trek episodes and reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The women's were not on my radar. so there's a whole stack of all three of them. Yay! But they have the group in the bottom. But now that I'm older and I've heard things, and I've seen, and we're not even close to there yet, but we are better in the 21st century than we were back in the 50s and 70s. But this stuff comes into my mind when I'm thinking about stuff like this stuff, and I am concerned, shall we say, not losing sleep over it, but I'm concerned that not enough public discourse. People say, oh, we're inundated with public discourse about this stuff and equality and making safe spaces for everybody, not just women folk. And so that's tangentially relates to my friend Sean. And again, we weren't close friends. And again, I'm thinking about that more and more lately, that we were not close friends. And I kind of regret that because he was an interesting character, an interesting person in my life. During my growing up years, I'm going through my head, and in my circle of acquaintances that were with me in the church, in the choir, that were with me in the Scouts and Boy Cubs, and were also in my class growing up, I don't think there was anybody more interesting. There was a guy named Heath who was very interesting, but he wasn't a friend of mine. He was a friend of a friend, my buddy Paul. He was a nice guy. I like Heath. We were in school together for a long time. I liked him, but he was a very interesting character. He liked taxidermy. he liked snares. He showed me how to set a bear trap. Like he's like one of those interesting types from back then. So I wasn't wary. I mean, I was never worried to be around him, but he was one of those guys. He would be a mountain man or whatever out there, survivor man. So he was an interesting character, but when we're in school, he was pretty straight-laced. He wasn't flamboyantly different than the rest of us in school. He dressed the way we all did. But when we're out, Paul and Heath and I were just out there on a weekend hiking through the woods. He would talk about snares, and he would like. I actually saw him catch a rabbit once, and he showed me how to skin it. Not that I ever cared to, not that I ever would, but he knew that kind of stuff at the age of 12 and 13, and so that was interesting. But in the daily discourse, that never showed up. We never talked about it. We just did school work and hang out. But Sean would be sitting in class, drawing pictures of superheroes, and very, very detailed, as I mentioned before. This is what he would do. This is where his passion was. And back then, in the 70s and 80s, it was oh, Sean, you shouldn't be doing that. Where's this going to get you in your life? Come on, put that childishness away. Put that childishness away, and be like, conform to be like the rest of us. And I knew, this is what I did know back then, he had a problem with that. he had this inner light, this inner joy of doing this stuff that he was not allowed to do. Now, there is a time, and I know this because of my own life, that there's another one. Yay. There is a time and place to put away quote unquote childish things. When I was in my 20s, I mean, I still had Lego, but I focused on my job and my career and education and blah, blah, blah. And the Lego was relegated to the back burner to when I could have time for it, but I wasn't focused on the Lego stuff back in my early 20s. It was still there. I didn't put away childish things never to touch again. I just put it away for a couple weeks because I'm busy with exams or whatever. But as I say, I don't think there's been a month, 30 consecutive days of my life where I didn't play with or touch or have doing stuff with my Lego collection. But it wasn't predominantly there. So this is the counterpoint. Sean was doing this well in class, and where we're supposed to be learning and stuff like that, daydreaming or whatever. I mean, I had the same problem, by the way. my teachers always had, oh, Dave's a wonderful kid, and my little report cards, Dave's a wonderful kid, but he doesn't pay too much attention to what's going on in the actual classroom for the learning stuff, because I'd be daydreaming. And then my parents were always on me about, hey Dave, you're in school and you want to get good marks. And I got fair marks, but had I applied myself, as I've been told my entire life, my life would have been or could have been radically different than it is. I would have gone off to university perhaps, but I just put in the effort to get a C average, and that was good enough for me. And they all knew it. All the teachers knew it. Dave has huge potential. I'd rather be out hanging out with my friends and stuff like that. So I won't say I coasted through life in school. I put some effort into it, but I know of lots of my other friends and acquaintances that put a considerable amount of effort into it. Again, a quick tangent from my point of view, and this is a fundamental point that I'm trying to instill into Josh. Grade school and high school, very, very quote-unquote easy for me to get a C average. I think, I don't know what that is, but I never cracked a book after hours. I never did any homework after hours. But if I had a report due or a presentation or whatever, a book report, that's the only time I'd actually do stuff after school. But when it came to homework, I read chapters 52 and I'll answer all the test quizzes. Nope. didn't bother. I didn't bother at all with any of that. And yet I would walk into a test or an exam, a final exam, right. 2 hours later, there you go, and I get myself a 65. so I didn't crack. So I had absolutely zero study habits when I hit college. Zero study habits. I didn't have anything ingrained or instilled in me after years and years and years of rote and repetition of study habits at all. And so college was a brick wall. Because college, I could not coast with college. And to me, that is, and did I regret it? Yes. Did I regret that I didn't put a lot of focus and attention to my scholastic endeavors back in high school? Yes. But on the flip side, I will never regret a single moment of my high school career because I had so much fun. You ask people who knew me back then, I had a blast in high school. and it was a blast done on good terms with both the administration and most of the students. Some people beg to differ, but overall, I had an absolute blast in high school. I hung out in the computer lab lots, not shocking at all. I basically taught to grade 11 computer science course. So I didn't dwell on my lack of study habits until college. And even then, I got a job. I got a job in computers. And I've been doing that for 35 years now. so in the end, I look back and I said, I could have done things radically different and put a lot more effort into that scholastic stuff, 100%. But I was putting more effort into my having a great time, not stupid time, not breaking a lot of time, or not getting drunk and rowdy and stupid, or getting in trouble and mischief, but having a good time, hanging out with people, doing stuff I wanted to do, like the morning announcements and stuff like that. So I can't regret my time at school. I won't regret my time at school, because in the end, I'm 58 years old now, and I have this. I have what I have. I'm happy with what I have. Call it the twists of fates and serendipitous stuff and all that stuff that I ended up where I am, because I mentioned I am the most blessed person I know, with everybody who's been in my life. The people who have been in my life, that's the blessings. It's not me doing anything except being me. But I think on that specific aspect, we come back to Sean, and he didn't have those blessings. He had a wonderful family, don't get me wrong. I loved his family. I knew his mom, I knew his dad, I knew his sister. Wonderful family, supportive as best they could be. But it was the 70s, it was the 80s. It was a radically different time than it is today. Radically different time. But I knew then there was an issue with it. I knew then that this kid should have been more appreciated, including by me. He should have been more appreciated for who he was. And this always comes back to my root, I guess we'll call it an axiom of my life, is accepting people for who they are fundamentally. It doesn't matter who other people want them to be or what the society thinks they should be. It's accepting them for who they are, 100%. And I've tried to do that literally my entire life. My one, not necessarily regret, but my one lack of appreciation of me is that didn't happen as much with Sean. And I look back at that, and it is a kind of, I won't say a huge regret, as I said, but it is kind of, as a fellow geek, because I've always been a geek. I've always worn my geekness on my sleeve. I've never hid my geekiness, like literally ever. As a fellow geek and appreciator of that kind of stuff. Again, in the fandoms, the various fandoms of geekiness, his was not mine. I was not a comic book connoisseur. I like comic books. I read comic books, but I wasn't all voraciously like waiting for the next X-Men or whoever, Firestar. It didn't matter to me about the next one. I was more into books. Asimov. And all his stuff was already published. Well, almost. The Foundation's endings were still to be coming in the future when I started reading Asimov. And it was great that as I was reading Asimov, his original stuff from the 50s, that he was still publishing in the 80s, which was great for me. that's where I was. I was stuck in science fiction land. I was 100% stuck in science fiction land, watching all the science fiction TV shows, reading all the science fiction books, appreciating Asimov and Clarke and Douglas Adams. And there wasn't too many other books that I remember now. Jack L. Chalker did the Ring series, which I still remember to this day as being utterly fantastic. Really, really good science fiction concepts in there. But that's where my geekness was, and Lego, obviously. But his was comic books and drawing as good as possible for somebody who's 15, 16, 17, as accurate as possible, those pictures in comic books, and making his own pictures of his own drawings of stuff. And so that would have been, when I went to Anime North a few weekends ago, we were in the industry building, and right next to us was the Artist Alley, which is, you would rent a booth and display and or sell your artwork. And you walk through there. And this was not just the vendors. This is people who were actually artists who made their own creations of whatever. And some of it was dark and broody and whatever, but still you look at it and you say, there's honest effort there. Not necessarily for me. I would not buy that picture of dark red and big muscles and swords and, you know, like bat wings out the back of the person, whatever they were. I'm going, but from my understanding is Artist Alley, you had to sell your own work. You couldn't buy other people's work to sell, and so so I'm walking through Artist Alley and I'm appreciating the art of what that people made, and that would have been Sean. That would have been Sean. I think he would have loved conventions like that. I think. Back when in the 70s, there weren't any conventions like that. So I think I keep on trying to convey in a surreptitious and or under the radar way that accepting people for who they are, as long as, and again, this is the only proviso that I have on it. My fundamental axiom of my life is accepting people for they are. The fundamental proviso is, as long as they're not negatively harming other people. That's it. If you're not negatively harming or impacting on other people, then be who you are. If you are a psychopath, that's who you are. Get help. But if you're not a psychopath and you like that really dark, broody, big, huge muscles and claws and semi-gore kind of stuff, not for me. But if you like that kind of stuff and you want to buy it, knock yourself out. If you want to try it, knock yourself out. As long as it stays in the realm of fiction, knock yourself out. I have sat through so many things that I say I didn't necessarily appreciate that, but I can see how there was effort there and appreciation for the genre, and therefore I am not going to say it's bad. It's not for me, but and that's what I should have done back in the day with Sean. What he was doing wasn't for me. I wasn't remotely interested in what he was doing, but he should have been supported. He should have felt like what he was doing was worthy of something, even if he wasn't making any money. Half the stuff I did in my entire life didn't make a dime for anybody, and I didn't care. There are some people that everything they do, every plan they make, every little thing they ever do has to somehow make money or save money, whatever. It's all about money, and that's fine. That's who they want to be. That's who they are. I'm not that person. I will buy this. Not making money. I will say my buying is drastically reduced now from what it was before. There was a lot in Mississauga. It was this car for $5. The guy reduced it for $5. I said, "Oh, I want it now, $5." But then I put his house into the GPS, and it was 30 minutes from my office to get there on a Monday afternoon. And then from his place back to home, it was going to be over an hour to drive. And I said, I am not driving for an hour and a half to buy this set for $5. I'm not doing it. Save it for somebody who is. I did say, and I was right. I like to say that I tried to be as nice as possible. That he's a really nice guy. I said, like, if I'm going into Toronto, and if this is still available, I will gladly buy it. But I can't drive an hour and a half to pick up a $5 Lego set. I can't do it. I might have did it when I was younger. Sandy even suggested, because I saw the lot on the weekend, or if we were going to buy it in the weekend. I said, I don't want to wait from our house there and back. I said, work is mostly all the way there, but of course at 5 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, the traffic, like the 30 minutes was traffic, and the hour and a half coming home is traffic. On a good day, it'd probably be 17 minutes going there, and then 45 to get home. But it's going to be an hour and a half. I said, I'm not doing that. I am not doing it. So I gave up on that lot. I did. It would have been nice to have that set, another copy. You know, I always like duplicates. I am happy I got this copy. And again, friends of this channel sent me the pieces to complete this copy, because over the years, because I got this for Christmas one year, I really did. I think there's pictures somewhere to prove it. But over the years, pieces got lost, which was odd for me, actually. I can go off on a tangent about that, but not right now. Maybe before this is over. I've had my Lego collection for a long time, and it did a lot of moving, and it did a lot of lending out to people for a while, for whatever reason, the various reasons that, and all my Lego set was in a whole bunch of Rubbermaid containers, and it would just go off and come back a couple weeks later, and I didn't bother keeping track because I had lots of pieces in there. So, but I know I lost pieces there, but I also know that I just lost pieces just because you lose pieces after a while. So that's acceptable. I would not do that again. I would absolutely do it again if somebody asked me back then, knowing what I know now, and somebody asked me back then if they could borrow some bricks or whatever for whatever they were doing with it, and I said absolutely. Which brings up a tangent on everything else. I got a call from Jamie at the Brick Shack, but not at the Brick Shack, but related to the Brick Shack. And Jimmy asked me if I could display the layout at the store for a while, and I said absolutely. So if Jimmy asks, I'm going to show up. He is that meaningful to me. So Jamie asked, and so this Sunday coming up, June whatever it is, I don't even know what today is, but the first weekend in June, first full weekend in June, I'm going to be at the Brick Shack on Sunday setting up the layout, and it's going to be there for at least a month. Which also puts on hold any changes I wanted to do to the layout, and so I highly doubt I'm gonna have anything ready for different or improved for Brickomania, which is kind of a little bit sad for me, but Jamie asked and I'm gonna show up with it. So that's just the way it is. And I'm looking forward to it ish. I'm probably not going to do the expanded landing pads. I'm going to leave that for Brickomania, but I'm going to set it up there and leave it there. And my plan now is to visit the Brick Shack more, because I will say the last time I was at the Brick Shack, I set it up. I think I went a week later to make sure Jamie was okay with it, and then there was about a month and a half before I went back to the store to see, and then it was another month after that when I picked it up to take it home. I think I only saw it at the store 4 times, maybe max 4 times, but I trusted Jamie, he could take care of it. I am debating right now whether because I mentioned the improvements or the lack of improvements for the monorails and the pickups, that I have to get working again, and so I don't know if I'm gonna have things moving on the layout when it's at the Brick Shack. I don't know. That is going to be a debate between now and Sunday, and possibly not even solved until Sunday when I'm setting it up. So, but all these tangents to wrap it up, I do think about Sean. I think about the life that he had, that the parts that I knew he had, because I haven't seen him since high school. I didn't see him since high school, so I don't know how his life evolved. But I do know he's gone now, and I think part of that is the fact that, you know, I'm almost 60 and I shouldn't be shocked by people I knew in grades from nursery school through high school that they are passing away. I think one of the first people that I knew passed away was a friend that well, not a friend, just but a known person in my life, and she was 40 when she passed away, so somewhere around 40, and I'm going, that was a bit of a shock, right? And again, there's probably other people that I grew up with that passed away, but I just didn't know about it. I just heard about this because it's in the community. So it's a sign of your own mortality. So you start thinking about that. You think about your legacy and what you want to leave, how you want people to think about you. I, for myself, vacillate between I don't care what people think about me, because I never really did. So I never put a lot of effort into worrying about how other people perceived me. So I am who I am. This is it. Take it or leave it, kind of thing. But also I get to the point where I do want to be a positive influence somehow on Josh and stuff like that, so he comes to understand what I've understood my entire life, which is people are going to be people. They're just going to be who they are, and you either accept it or just kick them out of your life, because you shouldn't try to change other people to suit who you want them to be. You just accept them for who they are. And this is why on a meta level or on a big level, I've always had zero problem with the LGBTQ community. I've never had any issues with the idea of that concept or any lack of appreciation. I've never had a lack of appreciation for people who want to do or who are who they are. I'm glad one of my close friends came out of the closet, and he gets to live his life the way he wants to live his life, and he gets to be who he is. He has so much joy and enthusiasm. When I only see him a couple times a year now, but because he lives across the country, when he comes home to see family and friends, he's living his best life now, and I couldn't be more happier for him. I have a step niece that moved to Portugal, or step nephew, or step them. It doesn't matter to me what their pronouns are. I want to address them in the way they want to be addressed. But in this context, I'm not sure. So it doesn't matter to me. They are in Portugal and they're having their life, and I'm so happy for them. And so I do, and just me being retroactively, I do wish this kind of mentality was around back in the 1970s and 1980s. I know it wouldn't have been, but I'm glad it's here now. I'm glad we're taking these steps, and I know how much farther we have to go to get past all the old people like me who have a problem with it. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I know my generation and my previous generations, the farther back you go, the more people are going to have issues with this new stuff. That's what happens in every generation when things change. So there's historical precedent there that's just as plain as nose in your face. So of a societal change over these kind of things, and I'm here to aid the change because I think it's right and just, and an appreciation of people for who they are. And I have no thought that there's anything wrong with this, and the arguments I've heard against it are all fallacious. They're all bigoted. There's no good, cogent, rational justification for not letting people be who they are, with, again, the proviso, as long as they're not harming anybody else. Because if people are, as they say, sociopaths or serial killers, yeah, that's got to stop. That should not be, embraced and enjoyed. But if somebody, and here's, and again, this has been pointed out so many times, it's I don't even know why it's worth reiterating. If somebody's gay, how does that affect you if you're not gay? Like how does that, somebody being gay or lesbian or trans or whatever, how does that affect your personal life? Nobody's telling you that you have to be trans. Nobody's telling you have to be gay. Nobody's telling you anything to tell you who you should be. Why are you telling other people what they should be? Let them be who they are. Let them be who they are. It's like telling, oh, I don't like people who are 6 feet tall. It's exactly the same. It's built in. It's built in. I'm 6'1". If somebody goes around hating 6'1" people for being 6'1", or blonde hair, I hate blonde hair. You have to change your hair color. You can't be blonde. So somebody's gay. You can't be gay. Yeah, they are. They're born that way. It's not a fad. It's like, oh my goodness, that kind of stuff. Oh, we could pray the gay away. I can't even begin to tell you how arrogantly ignorant that statement is. Pray away the gay. Again, to make the point as clear as possible, there are churches out there that fully embrace the LGBTQ community, fully embrace it without any hesitation. So you can't say it's Christianity that says pray away the gay. No, it's your bigoted, narrow version of Christianity that says pray away the gay. It is because there's other Christians out there who support it fully, and they're right and you are wrong. Period. Full stop. But anyway, I'm not going to bring the religion into it much more than that. I have oh look, this is almost the same length as the other video, and yet I didn't talk about Star Trek. So I think and again, in context, Star Trek was a huge influence on my outlook on life. Like, it was a massively huge, and again, you don't know that when you're watching it, when you're 5 or 6 years old and you're watching Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. You don't get it. That this is like indoctrination, sure. That you have to look with, there's nuance there, and there's appreciation of others there, others who might not look or sound or be like you are there. But again, Sesame Street did the same thing. Right? It did exactly the same thing. It's just a different way that Star Trek did it. These are the shows I watched when I was a kid. You watched The Jeffersons and you watched Archie Bunker, which was on when I was a little kid. Like, I think it was still on when I was a teenager. But you watch those shows, and they tackled these topics in a very humorous way. They tackled these topics, and so I watched them. I mean, Lear, was it Laura? Reiner? No, I can't remember. Meathead and his dad. Yeah, Reiner. Rob and Carl. They tackled these topics, and they didn't shy away from it. They didn't. But even Red Fox show, the Sanford and Son, like there was so many. And again, I won't even go into this topic because I already talked about it before. But there were so many shows that tackled the heavy topics, and how they tackled the heavy topics kind of defined them. Cheers tackled the heavy topics without ever being heavy, without literally ever being heavy, and yet they still got their points across. And then you got Sanford, well, not Sanford and Son, that never had any serious moments that I remember, but there was some serious moments in Archie Bunker. There was some serious moments in WKP. Different strokes, which probably doesn't hold up a lot, but there was some very serious moments in that show that they tackled the heavy topics, and they put on a parental warning when they're tackling these heavy topics right at the beginning. Conrad, I can't remember the actual actor's name. Arthur Conrad, can't remember. The dad would get on there and sit down and talk to the viewing audience. We are going to talk about this in this episode, so if you don't think you want to watch it, please don't watch it. And I'm going, this is basically before the PG-13 and MA-14 and all that stuff started showing up on TV, because it was only the movies back then. But I remember that. I remember that vividly to this day, when Different Strokes tackled the. Well, I won't talk about it because it'll get me demonetized. But right at the beginning, and the simple fact for me that one of my key memories is that they got Gordon Jump to play the bad guy. Gordon Jump, who was Mr. Carlson, WKP, and the Maytag repair guy. so Gordon Jump played that role, and he played it. And again, because it was like half-hour sitcom, I remember the episode. It got into it without getting into the icky part. They inferred the icky part. They didn't, but still, they made the point. I don't know how this got tangents upon tangents, but this is another thing that I just saw a huge talk about it the other day, and it just poofs out of my head. I can't remember now. Doesn't matter. That's it. That's all. I'm going to go to bed now because it is late, and I got to go to work tomorrow. So I will not have the layout here for a couple weeks, and I do want to put a 1 month at the shop because that'll take me in the first week in July ish, and that would give me a couple weeks to work on it before I have to go to Brickomania to fix up what I can fix. Other than that, I keep on finding these guys, no bridge and solid stud. Yeah, another one. I will say, oh my goodness, they're all right here. The ebbs and flows, the flotsam and the jetsam of parts is not guaranteed, but every once in a while I'll come across, because this thing's been mixed up forever, I'll come across 5 or 6 pieces like that in one area. I don't know if I went over there, and went over there, and went over there, but I consistently, when I'm doing these kind of sorts, consistently find more than a few in one area, and then I'm sorting for 5 hours and not seeing one, and then I find another one. So it's just odd how sometimes they do seem to stick together in one spot. Whatever, that's something I noticed. That's it. That's all. You guys all stay safe, take care, and there you go. Talk to you.